When you're dealing with simple built-in scalar values, it's usually pretty obvious what most operators will do. 2 plus 2 will generally get you 4. But when you're dealing with classes in C++, it's not obvious at all. In fact, C++ operators do not work with class types unless you create specific functions for those operators. These functions are called operator overloads or operator functions. And there's basically two ways of overloading operators. One is with class methods and the other is with functions. In this movie, we'll discuss overloading operators with functions, and we'll discuss class methods in the chapter on classes and objects. So here I have a working copy of func-operator.cpp from chapter 2 of the exercise files. And just running through it real quick, we have a simple class up here, and we'll cover classes in a lot of detail later in the course. But for now, just know that this is a simple class that overloads an integer, and it provides one method for returning a value. And then we have our operator overload function. We'll get to that in a moment. And down here in main, we declare two variables of type A, and A is our class. And one of them has a value 7, one of them has a value 42, and then we add them up using the plus operator here in the printf call. Now, this is our operator overload function. So the function signature, you notice it returns an integer, and then the name of it is operator and a symbol. And so the operator is a keyword that says that this is an operator overload function, and then the symbol is the operator that's going to be overloaded. And there are rules for which operators can be overloaded in what way and how many parameters they have, and most of them are pretty obvious. Like, for example, this plus operator, it takes two parameters. One is the left-hand side and one is the right-hand side operator, and I've named them LHS and RHS, and that's a very standard way to name them. And they're of type A with constant and reference, because you really want to use references for classes to pass them to functions, and you pretty much always want to use constant references because they tend to be rather large and you don't want to pass the entire class on the stack and create problems with Stack Overflow. So this operator plus function, it calls puts so that we know when it's being called. In practice, you won't ever do that, have an operator actually display a message on the console. We're doing that here for educational purposes so that you can see when the class is called, or rather when the function is called, and then it returns the value of the left-hand side plus the value of the right-hand side as an integer. And then we call printf and print this out. So let me build and run, and you can see that we call printf here, and the first thing it does is it calls the operator plus for class A, because this is two class A types with a plus operator. So the system, it looks for the plus operator that has that function signature with the two class A parameters. And it calls that, and it takes that value and passes it to printf. Now, if I were to just comment this out, then the system wouldn't know what to do with an addition operator, a plus operator, with these two variables of type class A. So when I build and run this, we just get an error that says invalid operands to binary expression. Our binary expression is this addition expression. It's binary because it has two operands, and the system doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't have an operator function for that purpose. So when I uncomment this and save and build and run, now it knows what to do with that because we have a function with that signature. So it's looking for a function with an operator of plus and two operands of type class A. And then it knows what to do with them. And so it calls this function, it adds them up, it takes the integer and it prints it, which is 49. So a few things to understand. One, this feature is not available for built-in types. I can see where that might be a lot of fun, but it would never really be a good idea. So you cannot overload an operator for two integers and make it do division. Also, keep in mind that while this is interesting and clever, it doesn't really add any functionality that's not otherwise available. It's always possible to just have an add method in your class and get exactly the same result. It just wouldn't look the same. And so this allows you to use a normal looking expression in your source code, but it's not, again, really adding any functionality that's not otherwise there. So it's a powerful tool, and like any powerful tool, It can be abused, and you should use operator overloading with a lot of caution. Make sure that it always makes sense for your application rather than just using it to overload an operator to do something that is not obvious by just looking at the code. So like I said, this is only half the story. For the rest of it, be sure to watch the movie on operator overloading in the chapter on classes and objects, and there'll be more examples of this as we go through the course.